Welcome. I'm Dennis Brunson. Welcome to Mr. Brunson Show. I'd like to have you subscribe and hit the like button. That'll help things out a lot. Last time we were talking about my gig down in Amarrilo, Texas. It was like 4 weeks, and then after that, the other guys wanted to go back home. So Al and I went up to Sioux City, and I'd called up to the Professional Musicians Referral Service in Minneapolis. I used them a lot. A lot of bands use them. It's a good place to connect up with other musicians, looking for musicians, or if you had a band, or if you wanted a gig. A gentleman by the name of George Busateri out of Minneapolis called me. Said he wanted to make a bass player change. And I said, okay. So I met him up in Spearfish, South Dakota at the Holiday Inn. Believe it or not, that was a good gig. Nice room, free rooms, half off on food, the usual for rooms like that. Rehearsed a couple days. George had actually I believe he was a graduate of Juilliard. So most of my bass parts were written out some bass clef, and I'd be reading sheet music. We did a lot of, first set was like some jazz type stuff, and then later on Joey would come on and we'd be doing some pop tunes. Gordon Lovell was the drummer, fantastic drummer. We all sang, and we did a lot of touring up in the Midwest, St. Paul, Venetian Inn, Clarion Inn, over by the old Metropolitan Baseball Football Stadium. We came down to Colorado a few times, Colorado Springs. I remember a funny story. After Colorado Springs, we were playing a nice hotel up top there. We went over to Dodge City, Kansas, and again, it was a hotel, and they gave us a band house. George and Joey were, Joey more so was very strict. What we wore, what our hair looked like, even when we ate. It was like, gee, I'm not saying in a bad way, because it worked out pretty good. But Joey didn't like dogs. Well, I wanted to get a dog and take it back to Sioux City, so I went when I was in Colorado Springs. I went over and got a dog. Gordon knew about it, but we used to rehearse 3 times a week at like 2 o'clock to 4, and we're in the club rehearsing, and the GM comes in. He goes, "Who in the band's got a dog?" And I turn around. I look at Gordon. He's kind of looking down like this. Here, he knew, I had a dog. And he says, "Well, the dog just busted out the window in the band house. He's got a cop stuck up the tree. So I need whoever's got a dog to come over and get the dog down." Well, I finally told him what happened, and I thought Joey was going to be a lot worse than she was, but everything turned out okay with that. And then we moved on to some other gigs, and ended up at Albuquerque at the Clarion Inn. Nice job over there. And we went down to New Orleans. And in between there, we'd hired a sax player, Gary Moore. I mean, this guy had a great voice. He's seen the Barry Gibb stuff, and played great saxophone. And I played bass with the left hand on a couple tunes, and then do some horn parts on the right hand. I play them both at the same time. And so Gary joins the band for a while, and he's hilarious. I remember we loaded into the Marriott in New Orleans, and come in the back way with employee entrance, and Gary goes, "Hey, that time clock." I said, "Yeah, we don't have to punch a time clock, Gary." He said, "I know." He took about 30 or 40 time cards and started punching them in and out, so I probably messed up their pay for a while down there. We were down there a month. That was a great gig. I think it was during the Super Bowl too, so that was even better. And one night towards the end of the gig, the New Orleans, it was a Jazz at the time, and they were playing another basketball team. Well, the other teams used to stay at the Marriott, And it was late in the evening. I think they come in after the playing the game, and we had a dressing room right inside the club there, and guys like put their cigarettes out in different glasses and stuff. And Gary had taken the old drink and ice out of one of these glasses and left the butts in there and filled it up with Coke. And while the waitress wasn't looking, he switched the drinks, and that glass on that tray got delivered to a guy in the back of the club. And I remember this guy stood up. He was like 6'8", 6'9", and threw the glass down. He goes, "What the hell is in this drink?" And Gordon, Gary and I were like looking at each other. Gary's trying to play the saxophone parts, and he's like cracking up. And we never did say anything, and that was the end of that deal. But after that gig, at the end of that month, Gary and I and Gordon, we wanted to do more rock stuff. We were kind of getting bored with the, first set jazz and then doing these, not really any higher energy type stuff. So we started a rock band, and we actually started off in we rehearsed at Gordon's parents' place in Beloit, Wisconsin for about 3 or 4 weeks. Then we did some up Chicago over there, did a few dates, Iowa, Illinois, and around. And I wasn't happy with the situation, what was going on. And I left the act. And I don't think they stayed together much longer after that. We were having a hard time getting booked for some reason. But it wasn't that we weren't any good, because it was a great band. And then after that, I went back to Sioux City for a very short time. And again, Musicians Referral Service. A gentleman by the name of Joey Silva from Hawaii had called me. I ended up meeting him in Indianapolis at the Holiday Inn. No rehearsals, first night, 6 nights a week. Jumped up, started playing. I was watching John Kirsch was the keyboard player. I watched his left hand. In case of a song I didn't know, I could follow on the bass. He was real good at that. And so Joey, we did a lot of great hotels, nightclubs. Great guy. We were with Joey, I think, for roughly about 2 years, and ended up playing up in Montana, believe it or not. We played Butte. It was a new hotel, Copper King Inn, and I remember Robbie Knievel, Evil's son. He was a bartender at the time. We got to be friends with him, get to know him quite well, and we ended up at Great Falls. And let me tell you, you don't want to play Great Falls in January. I had to keep my van running the whole time. It was 20, 30, 40 below. I remember loading out one time up there, and I looked up at the bank at 2 in the morning. It's 43 below zero. That's regular temperature, and it was like 30, 40 mile an hour winds going on. After that, we went back to Brandon, Manitoba, and way up north in Manitoba, back up to this is summertime. Back up to a place called Flin Flon. Most unusual crowd I've ever seen. I think it was like almost light when we got done playing at night, but the reason we went up there was so beautiful, and we'd hang out at the lakes every day. It was an unbelievably great location up there. The scenery, the lakes. We were up there for I think a week or two, came back down to Brandon, went over to Saskatoon. Calgary, used to play a lot in Calgary. Over there at the Highway Host Hotel on McLeod Trail. Ended up down at Great Falls. Again, we were in Wyoming, Cheyenne. We used to play a lot, and we stayed pretty busy. Our agent was very good at keeping us busy. I wanted to come down to Arizona for some reason. I had been speaking with an agent down here. And so after that gig, I came down to Scottsdale. That was my first time in Scottsdale. So in the next video, I'm going to start going over my time in Scottsdale in the beginning. Thank you.